Hey everyone, this is Rich. I'm Plant-Based Coaches Podcast. I'm joined here today with my friend Dr. Suzanne Foxx.
Hey, everybody.
And we're honored to have Dr. Ruth Heidrich. I've been following her for years, ever since I saw her in Forks Over Knives.
Oh,
She has an
great.
amazing story, very impressive. And Ruth, I wonder if you don't mind taking us back to the beginning, because I know you're diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, but I'll let you take it over from there.
Okay. It goes back even further than that. In I like to say there are two men and two books that have changed my life massively and many times over. The first one is this book, Aerobics by Dr. Kenneth Cooper. I read that book when I was 33 years old, and it made so much sense that when I finished the book, I went out and ran. And I ran and ran, and I thought, turned around, came back, and I thought, wow, I feel great. And I was hooked. And so from then on, I ran every day. And
Wow.
then one day, I was at work. I was a logistics officer at Hickam Air Force Base here in Hawaii. And one of the sergeants that worked for me gave me a flyer. And he said, they're having a 5K race on the base next Sunday. You ought to enter. And so I thought, oh, yeah, I'd like to try that. So Sunday morning, I get there and I look around, and there are all these fit young men, Air Force, trained and supposedly ready to go. And I looked around, I said, what am I doing here? There are no other women. I'm going to embarrass myself. So I was going to slink away, and the gun goes off. And I had to start running or get run over. So I ran and ran and ran and ran, saw the turnaround, came back, and I thought, I got to keep going. I can't quit. The fate of womanhood. What are these men going to think about a woman? And so I got to finish. And so my legs had turned to lead. I kept on going, and I crossed the finish line. I thought, oh, I made it. And then I looked around, and I wasn't even last. So I thought, wow,
Yeah,
okay, I learned something.
it's great.
And then I heard my name called, and I got the first of my first medals. And you see back behind me, there are a ton of medals. Let me
Oh
see.
yeah.
They
Wow.
go all over there. So
Very
amazing.
impressive.
Yeah. So that again hooked me. So I had been running 14 years when I was at the beach one 4th of July weekend. I was leaning over with my family, including my aunt. And she said, Ruthie, look, you've got a lump in your breast. I said, what? That, oh, that can't be. And I thought it, and it was. How did I miss that? So I got in to see a doctor in about 2 days. And he
Uh,
looked at that and he said, why did you wait so long to come in?
How
I
how
said,
big was the lump? Do you remember?
well, I know exactly. In fact, I could pull up the pathology report. It was over 5 centimeters in
Wow.
size, which
Wow.
is large,
Yeah.
very large, with no clear margins. So that led to that. But anyway, before the biopsy, or just after the biopsy, they said because no clear margins, we're going to have to do a mastectomy. And so I was recuperating from that, getting ready for the follow up with oncology when I saw this little notice in the newspaper. And it said, women, breast cancer research study being done. Well, at the time, I was already working on a PhD, and it was in psychology, but a real interest in nutrition because I'd studied it in college already. And so when I saw this, it was Dr. John McDougall. He lived in Kailua at the time, which is right here in Hawaii, Oahu. So I called the number that he listed there, and I got right through to him. He had just finished his internship here at Queen's Hospital and had just set up an office, a brand new resident, not
Wow.
many patients.
Wow.
So When I called him and told him I had just been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, he said, get your medical records. I need to talk to you. So I get the records and I'm sitting in his office and he's looking at the research, the tests that had been done, blood tests, and he said, with a cholesterol of 236, you are at as high a risk of dying of a heart attack as you are the breast cancer. And I said, wait just a minute, Dr. McDougall. I run marathons. I've been running 14 years. I'm fit and healthy. There's no way. And he said, 236. Yes. And that's from eating meat, dairy, and oils.
Oh, yeah.
He said, the research I want to do is to have just one variable, because if you do the chemotherapy and radiation and the diet, people are going to say, oh, it was the chemo that did it, not the diet. He said it can only be one or the other. And I really think you ought to change your diet, because here's the research I have. And he reached around a file drawer and he opened it up and he said, these are all epidemiological studies that showed the different countries and the different rates of breast cancer. That was pretty impressive, because the countries that eat little or no meat have little or no, not only breast cancer, but heart disease,
Yep.
Diabetes, obesity. And I thought, oh my gosh. And then he showed me some animal studies that had been done at the time, where they took cancer cells and implanted them into the bellies of different animals, which is, too sad that they work on animals, but at the time it was done okay. And it showed that if you fed the animals a high-fat diet, the cancer just took off and spread. But if you fed them a low-fat diet, the cancer shriveled up and dropped off. And he said, this is what I think will happen to you. And so I changed my diet, and the first question, where do I get my protein?
Mhm.
Where do I get my calcium? He and Mary had just published, you see this book?
Wow.
That's their very first book. And
It looks like the original.
yeah, look old. These two books, as I say, two men, Dr. Kenneth Cooper and Dr. John McDougall, really changed my life. And so it was serendipity, just by luck, that I happened to be at the airport looking for something to read on a flight. And by luck, I saw that little small ad in the newspaper. Serendipity, but then curiosity. I followed up, I read the book, I followed up, I called on that. And so those two things, serendipity and curiosity, which I hope everybody.
It's 11 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, I've got my,
No problem.
this is my reminder, because I sit too long. I get involved on the computer and I stay for hours. So
I
anyway,
need that reminder too to get up. Yeah.
We
I'm
all
sorry.
do.
I said I need that reminder too to get up.
Oh,
And my
I
watch
think we
reminds
all
me.
do.
Yeah.
We all sit too long. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, after that, I was in the hospital because they said, we need to do a mastectomy. And then while we're at it, I think we ought to get the other breast, because the doctor said, you're at such high risk of breast cancer in the other breast. What I did not know at the time was that changing my diet almost eliminated the breast of a cancer in the other breast, but it was too late. I had the double mastectomy. And I got, when I was in the hospital recovering from the mastectomy, because I'd been a daily runner and never missed, it was the highest priority. And so I asked the doctor the next day, how soon can I get back to running? And he said, oh, as soon as you feel like it. I said, when am I going to feel like it? He says, well, knowing you, it's going to be probably 1 or 2 weeks. I said, what? I'm going to lose so much fitness. I knew that fitness, it started being lost from day one, that you don't exercise or move.
How far were you running? How far were you running on a regular basis at that time?
At least an hour. But
hour a day?
Yeah, I worked up to it from the first run, just gradually. And then with that first race, I started thinking I have to train because then they started, this is, back in 1968, where running the running boom had not started.
No,
That
okay.
didn't start until 70s or 72.
Right.
So anyway, there were races starting up. So that's when I started increasing that. And then the marathon, the same sergeants in my office, a different crew because this was several years later, and they were running the Honolulu Marathon. And I thought, oh, I can run. So I checked it out and entered it and did my first marathon and in 4.5 hours. And so,
That's
yeah,
really
I
good.
thought that would be saving me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and just kept on doing what I'm doing. And then I heard about the Ironman Triathlon, which also started here in Hawaii. There was the Honolulu Marathon, which I had just done. And there's the Waikiki Rough Water Swim, which is a 2.4 mile swim in the ocean off of Waikiki Beach. And I knew how to swim. I learned how to swim when I was 3 years old because we lived right across the street from the beach. And so I thought, well, I can handle swimming. I'll just keep going until my arms break off. So, but I started training for the swimming. And then the bicycle, I had an old rusty bike in the garage. And so I got that out and just sanded off the rough and got new tires and started biking and actually started biking to and from work because I didn't live that far away from
nice.
the base. And
That's
so,
nice.
and I joined the Waikiki Swim Club and got a coach there that was helping me. And so I just trained. And then I found out that the Ironman Triathlon, you have to qualify it, not just anybody can enter it. And so they did have the half Ironman right here in Kailua, same place. So I did the half Ironman and I got a first place in my age group. I
Nice
knew that
job.
the diet made all the difference in the world. It's
How
not,
long after you started the diet did you do the first half Ironman?
it was less than a year,
Wow.
less than a year. Yeah. And so getting a first place in that qualified me as an entrance for the Ironman. And as I said, it had been started here, but traffic was getting bad at the time. It wasn't nearly as developed as Oahu is now, but they decided to move it to the Big Island in Kona.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as it turned out, my father had moved to Kona and he was living there. So while I was recovering from that surgery, I went to visit him, and the timing couldn't have been better. And it was the 1983 Ironman that I watched, and I thought, oh my God, it's just, I don't know if I can do it. It is just incredible watching. You start at 7 o'clock in the morning and you end, if you don't finish by midnight, you're disqualified. They take you off the course. And so I knew I had to train hard and go fast. And so in 83, that really inspired me. And when I told my dad I was going to do that, and he said, "You're crazy. I mean, that's ridiculous. And besides, you've got cancer. You ought to be taking it easy. And if you're on this silly diet," my dad, by the way, never did change his diet. That's the way my whole family has gone. So anyway, I was really invigorated. And when I got back, I really doubled on my training. And so the next year, 1984, sure enough, well, back up a little bit. This is in my book. I have a brand new updated edition. This just came out.
Can you pull it over to the side just a little bit? Right there you go. Perfect. Nice.
Yeah. And yeah,
I'll definitely link it.
It's on Amazon and the website lanternbooks.com.
We're going to put a link up as well.
It's what I happened before I showed up that first morning was that I had been training on the Big Island. You know, I'd visit my dad again and take my bicycle and I'd go the 112-mile course. And the cutoff there is 8 hours. And so I knew it was going to be rough doing the
That's
8
intense.
hours. But I kept practicing. And
8 hours on a bicycle seat.
yeah, well, 2.5 hours swimming in an
Oh,
ocean. Yeah, and
mm.
then running a marathon,
Oh
and
my God.
it's hot too. So anyway, I was doing one of the practice bikes, and my best training partner was Teresa, and she wasn't as fast. She kept thinking, if I visualize me crossing, and that'll do it. So, and she smoked on top of that. So I,
Yeah.
anyway, so we did the turnaround at the 60-mile mark, and I was coming back, and the next thing I knew it was 10:30 at night, and I was in the Kona hospital.
Oh
And I
no.
said, what happened? Where am I? And the nurse there laughed and said, you've just been asking that question over and over.
Oh my
I had
God.
amnesia. I had been hit by a truck who glanced over me, hit me, knocked me over, and I landed and had a helmet on,
Oh
which
my
ripped in
goodness.
half, but I got a concussion, and I had a fracture in my leg and really bad damage in the left leg and the right hip. So
Wow.
Oh
I
no.
didn't know they explained what happened, that your friend was about 10 minutes behind you, but she saw, it was pretty deserted. This is out in the Big Island, if you've ever been there. Yeah, nothing for miles and miles. And so she saw what happened, and then they called 911. I didn't know anything had happened until they told me. And then I started to move in the bed a little bit. The pain. Oh, what? Oh my God. And they told me the x-rays showed the fracture, and that you had a deep cut in your scalp right here. And if you had, and here's your helmet. And if you hadn't been wearing that, you would have been killed. No
Oh
question.
my goodness. It's crazy.
So I said, get me in the water. I got to start training and just, try to, as soon as I could, uh, move a little bit with crutches and get in the water, and try exercise. And then when I had to go back to Oahu, I flew back, and then I had a new doctor there. And so he was following me, and he said, it's going to be 8 weeks before. I said, but I've got an Ironman in 7 weeks. And
Oh.
I said, forget it. You're never going to heal in time. And
Mm.
I'm thinking, with my diet, my recovery is going to be fast. My bones are going to heal. And so I had a stationary bike at home as well. And so for a while, I couldn't even raise my legs. I couldn't get on the
It's
seat.
broken. Yeah.
Yeah. But I knew I was going to heal fast. So I kept on trying. And sure enough, it wasn't
Unbelievable.
too long before I could get on the stationary bike. And so I'd go for like 2 minutes, and the pain would be enough. And I'd think, well, that's it for today. And the next day, maybe 3 minutes and four. So it's gradually working back up on the bike. And the swimming was the same thing. We had a pool in our backyard, small pool, so I couldn't do really long laps, but it was enough at the time. And then as far as running, it had been, let's see, 4 weeks when I went back to visit this same orthopedic doctor, and he said, "Yeah, you're healing, but it's going to take 7 or 8 weeks." And so I went back again in about 2 weeks, and I said, "How am I doing?" He said, "Well, you're looking pretty good." And I was still on crutches, of course, and I'd kind of gotten dependent on crutches, because, I needed that. So,
Crutches are hard too. The crutches are extremely hard to
You used them
use.
before.
Yeah.
I know they
yeah,
are.
yeah,
Very painful.
but it kept the upper body working. Yeah.
It
So
does. It does.
anyway, he said, stand up. I got off the exam table and stood up, and he said, give me the crutches. And I stood there. What? He said, yeah. Yeah. He said, okay, now try to walk a little bit. I said, oh my God. Oh, I can do it. He said, yep, the bones are healed enough already that you can start walking.
Oh.
But don't overdo it. Wait a while. You're still not going to be able to heal in time for the Ironman. And so I just gradually worked up. I was so determined. Plus, I had paid $100 for the
Oh
entry.
my gosh, I
Yeah.
know it, the worst.
Yeah. And with my dad being there, that really helped a lot because I'd train again. And so the morning of that in October, I'm there at the finish line, and we're all the athletes, and one of the few females, by the way, are standing at the edge of the sand. And then when the gun goes off, we all dive into the water and swim the 2.4 miles. And so I thought, well, I'm going to see if I can, at least I'm here and I'm going to do what I can. I know I won't be able to finish, but I got 17 hours, so I'm going to just not race. I'm just going to do it. So I got through the swim okay. And then the bike, that was a lot harder because at about 4 or 5 hours, halfway to turn around, I was so sore in my butt that I thought, oh, I can't keep going. And I thought, I have got to keep going. If I just can get to the transition point, get off the bike, and then I'll be happy that I did at least the swim and the bike. And I don't care about the run. So when I finally finished, and I talk about this in my book, the different episodes that have happened during that time. And so I got to start. And as it turned around, the route was such that then from the transition point was 3 miles to the finish line. And the finish line is where, trucks up by a freeway and trucks there had to get to that finish line. It was only 3 miles. And I thought, well, I'll just walk 3 miles, but I've got to get to the finish. Instead of trucks, I'm at my dad's car and people waiting for me. And so I started that shortcut back to the finish. And then I thought, and at the finish is when you start the marathon. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go up this first hill and see if I can make that.
Oh my God.
And then I thought, well, maybe I can get to the airport, which is about halfway. And so I got there and I thought, and then by that time I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to finish. And so I stopped at an aid station and recovered. I drank. They had some fruit there, so I loaded up on the fruit. And after a rest, I thought, well, I'm going to run a little, at least to the next aid station, which are about 2 miles apart. So I did that, and just when I got to the point where I could see the finish line coming down that first hill that I went up, and I thought, oh my God, I think I did it. And so
you did this.
Oh my gosh. And so, where's that big picture? The finish line.
They need
Well,
to do
you
a
can
movie
send it
about
to us
that.
and we'll put it up. Yeah, you can send
Okay.
it to us. We'll put it up.
Okay, good.
They
Wow.
should do a
Yeah,
movie
it's,
about you. I mean, that's
yeah,
incredible.
wait a minute. Let me get my,
This is better than what's that? There's another guy that does this.
Rich
What's
Roll.
his name? No, Rich Roll, but there's another one. Oh, he was in the Marines. He's been a Marine. This is a story like his story. So I'm gonna have to remember his name. It'll come to me. I'll remember his name. Oh, there you are. Look at you, girly. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Arms
Yeah.
up and everything. And that's like
Oh,
7
yeah.
weeks. You
Oh,
said that was 7 or 8 weeks after your bicycle
yeah.
crash?
Yeah.
That is
7
incredible.
7
Unreal.
weeks. Yeah.
Unreal.
And the one of the doctors that had seen me had told me, you'll never, just forget it. You can do it next year.
Yeah,
And as I
what did
crossed
you
the
think after
finish
you
line,
finished?
he's right there. And he said, if I had not seen this, I would never have believed it. I said, it's the diet. I keep telling people. So I have the honor of being the first vegan to ever do the Ironman.
I
So
love that.
Unbelievable. Nice
I know,
job.
and still, the athletes, triathletes, think that paleo or keto or you got to
No.
have meat. I know, and my family, the same thing is just, oh well, everything in moderation. told
Yes, until you get moderate amounts of disease that way.
yeah,
Exactly.
yep.
Exactly.
And they just, oh no. But they're healthy enough that they haven't had any kind of a medical crisis. I am hoping that if and when they do, and I think it's now when, not if, because eating meat and dairy and oil are just so, yeah,
Detrimental.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
You would think after what they witnessed with you that they'd want to go on board, but
well, part of the problem, Richard, is that I was 47 at the time. They had been long gone from home. And so my influence on them was very little.
Are you
They,
talking about your children?
yeah,
Yeah.
both of them, they graduated from high school here, but they went to college on the mainland. And of course, with so many college kids, they set up a community, they meet a spouse, and so they settled there. So my son is in Ohio and my daughter is in Florida. And so they were both uh, associated with the military as I was. And so I just rarely got to see them. And I was so busy with training. And then the other great thing that happened is Dr. McDougall had been following me, and he said, I kept him apprised of what I was doing and what I wanted to do. And he said, yeah, that's crazy. And I said, no, I got to do it. I want to prove to people that this diet is incredible. And had I not been a runner, I would never have found this out. And so when I did complete the Ironman, he said, you've got to write a book. I said, Dr.
Yes.
McDougall, I'm a nobody. Who's going to read it?
Oh, it's an
He said,
amazing story. I was thinking, I remember the guy's name, David Goggins. This is a story like David Goggins would say. Yeah.
oh, okay. I have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dr. McDougall, at the time, I showed you his first book.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
then he did get a publisher. And so he was working on the McDougall program. And so he said, I'm writing a book right now. He said, I'll help you. And I said, well, I don't know where to start. I had the old typewriter. This is back again
Mhm.
before the internet, before laptops.
Yeah.
So I had gotten some kind of a laptop, and he said, meet me at the computer store and I'll show you the words so that you can start using that. So
Perfect.
that's how my first book came out. And then I got a publisher who had heard about it. I'd sold 10,000 copies as
Nice job.
a private publisher. And so they wanted to publish it. So that's Lantern Books. Martin Rowe happened to be a very ardent vegan, more animal rights than health, but he also was aware in editing my book about what I said about running, how great it was. And he decided, he looked down and thought, I'm going to try running. Well, he got hooked just like I did.
Nice.
And in fact, before long, he was running marathons. He's back in New York.
Yep.
And so he actually trained and got entered into the Boston Marathon. That's as hard to get into as the Ironman. You have to qualify.
Yes.
You have to have a good time. And so he did the Boston Marathon and crossed the finish line. You remember the year 2013 when they had the Boston Bombers?
Yeah.
He had just crossed the finish line when that happened.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But by that time, he had done several marathons, so he was hooked. Well, one day I get a call from him. This is about the year 2000. And he said, I just figured out you've been running for 40 years and I love it. We need to have you write a book called Lifelong Running, where you talk about all the anecdotes and there are many. And so that's that book. And then when I was 70 and still doing triathlon, still racing, competing, doing well, he said, we need you to write a book, Senior Fitness. Well, I knew working with Martin, I couldn't say anything without having a citation. And that's a lot of work. And I was still very busy with everything I was doing. And so I hesitated, and he said, well, think about it and let me know. Well, the next morning when I was doing my run, all these things were popping into my head. Well, I can say this, I can say that. So I called Martin, okay, I'll do it. And so that's the third book that Lantern Books has published. So, and because I don't know if you know, are old enough to know who Dr. Ruth was, Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
Yes, of course.
Oh, you
Yes.
did? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she
So I
died
started
recently, I
getting
think.
emails about confusing me with that Dr. Ruth and their sexual problems. And so,
Yes.
and
She
enough
was
of,
the sex doctor, Richard.
yep, yep,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
little
she
old
died a
German
few years
lady.
ago, I remember.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just recently, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's about 4'9" with a heavy German accent. And she say,
Mhm.
"Sex is very, very good." Yes. Yeah. So I would answer them. You've confused me with the other Dr. Ruth, but I think I can help you because I knew it wasn't a Madonna complex or psychological or anything else. It was the obstruction of that one tiny little artery that is so crucial. And if you change
Yes.
your diet, that
Yeah.
will open up and try it. So, yeah. And so I was getting results from that. So I thought, oh, here's another book,
Yeah.
Sexual Fitness in 10 Easy Steps. So, yeah, I enjoyed writing that one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
if
Amazing.
I'm going on too long, let me know. But
Oh,
No, but
no,
one
no.
thing I did
so,
want
Oh,
to go
Richard
over,
and I
though,
have both written books, but we've only written one each. So this is very exciting hearing about all the different ones you've written.
definitely.
okay.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to talk about is how you got in the Forks Over Knives documentary. That's how I first became aware of you.
Well, that is people almost to this day, people still recognize me. I was in Lowe's. I think that's a big box
Yeah,
store,
it is.
Lowe's.
Yeah.
And I was buying something for my kitchen. And as I was checking out, this man started walking up to me and he's pointing, said, you're the one. I said, Forks Over Knives. He said, yes. I said, yeah, it's me. And he said, my wife and I watched it 7 years ago. We went vegan immediately and loved it. Wait till I tell my wife I ran into you. And he was really excited, and so was I. Well, one other thing that happened, I got requests to speak, and T. Colin Campbell had
Mhm.
me speak at
Yeah.
Cornell, and
Mhm.
I can't remember who had me speak. Lynn, somebody. She was a professor at Stanford. She invited me to speak there, and so in Toronto, there was a summer fest there. I spoke there. And after one of the talks, a man came up to me and he said, you know how there are always men on baseball cards? We need a woman. And he pointed at me and I said, what a great idea.
It is.
And
It
so
is.
that's how these came about.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I
and I
love that.
started by saying, Forks Over Knives. You got to watch that documentary. So,
Yeah.
anyway, the next thing that happened, well, actually, it happened quite a bit before, but I didn't know it was going to be relevant. After I had the double mastectomy, and I was either in a bathing suit or running, and it was so obvious that I had no breasts, and I was so embarrassed. You know, I just walk like this, and finally, one of the doctors I saw, we could do breast implants. And I thought, oh, he said, yeah, we have these silicone things and we'll just put it under your skin and you'll have what you can have them as big as you want. And I said, I just want my plain old B size that I had before. And so I agreed and had the breast implants. And then that was back in, 20. Anyway, I'd had several changes. They're not permanent. You're supposed to exchange them every 10 years. So I was due for an exchange. But just before that, I had tripped and fallen
Oh
and
no.
ruptured. And they were saline. Both of these were saline implants. And when that ruptured, he said, well, okay, there's a whole new type. They're called textured and they're solid silicone. And so he said, we can put those in. That was 2014. And so I said, okay, good. I said, also, can I watch the surgery? And he said, no, you don't want to watch that. Well, I had watched my biopsy. That's another
Oh,
anecdote
goodness.
that's in my
Yes.
book, the biopsy. And so I was just enthralled with what was happening. And so I actually probably one of the few people have ever seen their cancer, their tumor, because he took it out on block, the whole thing, except for the no clear margins, which had spread.
Yeah.
So anyway, everything was going fine, except all of a sudden I was noticing my balance wasn't very good. I trip then my hair started falling out.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, and I started getting mottled skin all over. And I'd go see, I actually saw 14 different specialists asking what's wrong.
Goodness.
The answer was always it's age, because by this time I was in my
Oh, they
80s.
love to say that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not age. It's
it's
not
age.
age.
I
It's
know.
not age.
I knew it wasn't my age.
No.
None of them believed that diet made any difference, that I was kind of a
Of course.
kook. Yeah. And one doctor, I think well, Michael Clapper, said, don't tell doctors your diet. They're going to dismiss you as,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So, but I couldn't help it because I'd tell them that it's my diet. And they said, no. So when I happened to be visiting in Canada, and I was reading their newspaper there, and I picked it up and I saw this article. It's a long article with a picture, and it was breast implant illness, a nightmare. And I thought, oh, that's silly. We know the FDA wouldn't have passed these if they were dangerous. And I thought, well, curiosity, I'm going to read it. And so I read. It started out with all the symptoms, and it was like check, 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 check.
Oh,
And I
no.
thought, oh my God, that's what is explaining all of these things. So I called the Canadian doctor, or the person who wrote the story, and told her I had all those symptoms. And she said, you've got to get those implants out right away. It's just going to get worse. And I said, who's your doctor, your surgeon? She gave me his name, and I got to see him. And he said, yes, I'll do the surgery. I need your MSN. That's your Canadian health care. And so,
Oh,
I'm sorry, I don't have one. And he said, well, then I can't do it. I said, I'll do a private pay of whatever it costs, I'll pay. He said, no, that would invalidate my Medicare insurance,
no.
practice insurance.
Yep.
That's
And he said,
crazy.
you better get home and see the doctor who put them in. So and then I went on Facebook and I saw all these, there are 3 different Facebook
It's
groups,
11:30.
all of whom had the same thing. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. I am one of many who are fighting the same thing. Nobody believes that's what's happened to them. And there's one group, it's called Fierce Flat Forward. And that's, you wear your badge of honor, your flat chest. So in fact, after he took them out, the surgeon said, you'll see, I left some skin in case you change your mind and want more. I said, I would never. What I didn't know then, but know now, your autoimmune system detects these right away as a foreign
That's a
substance.
foreign
And
object.
it
Yeah.
starts attacking them like it would bacteria and a virus.
Yep.
And it causes inflammation, which
Sounds
is
like autoimmune disease.
inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though they're gone, the inflammation is still there. There's still symptoms of it. So that's the 6th book.
Did you try the celery juice? The daily celery juice to get rid of the symptoms, the autoimmune symptoms?
No, I have never done any juicing because
I know I had never done it either, but they diagnosed me with lupus a couple years ago, and that's the one thing. I mean, I do a plant-based diet, low fat McDougall style, and that's the one thing that actually got rid of the autoimmune system symptoms for me was 16 ounces of daily celery juice every morning. So I mean, it's worth a try.
oh,
It's worth a try. I mean, it's not McDougall approved. It's not, any of the plant-based doctors, but it certainly did make a huge difference for me. So it might be worth a try.
Well, Brooke Goldner,
Yeah.
because going back to 1990, when Dr. McDougall left Hawaii to go to Santa Rosa and get his program there, there were 8 of us who were McDougallers. And we were bereft, when he left because he'd been such an important part of our lives.
Yeah.
And so we got together and formed the Vegan Society of Hawaii.
Nice.
Yeah. So because I was so active in it and so passionate about the message that we started having monthly meetings. And then when we got membership, it was only like $25 a year. And so we could bring in, we had Dr. McDougall speak, of course, from that when Zoom started. Boy, that was really great. And then brought other speakers in. And so that's been a great part of my life, is just our Vegan Society of Hawaii and all the members that we have and the people that we've helped. So
That's
that's
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. I've seen so many of the episodes from the Vegan Society of Hawaii. So many plant-based.
good.
Yeah, I've seen them. I really appreciate them, even from where I am. It's just so nice that it was published, so you can see it.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm in Virginia on the East Coast in the United States.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm in
and
Connecticut.
He's
Oh,
up in
Connecticut.
Massachusetts. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Sorry, I
Yeah.
thought it was Massachusetts.
Yeah. Another
So-
question I had, as we wrap up, I
Oh,
know
wait,
it's
let me
close to an
finish.
hour, but
So as speakers,
Yeah.
I'd heard about Brooke Goldner.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I invited her and we flew her out here. She spoke live. And at the end of it, I went up to her and told her, thanked her for agreeing to come to Hawaii for this. Of course, she loved it because she had gotten married here in Hawaii. So anyway, I told her about my breast implant illness and she said, green smoothies. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I've been doing green smoothies
Oh,
ever
good.
since.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
and again,
another question I had, well, we're getting close to an hour, but I did want to ask you about Dr. McDougall, because that must have been a huge shock to you when he passed. It's a shock to all of us.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He had such an impact on your life that I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. Have you heard of Dr. Peter Rogers yet?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lynn, have you?
I haven't heard of him. No.
Oh, he's a great doctor too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, one of the things and Jeff Nelson, do you know who he is?
I know who he
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, he interviewed Peter Rogers, and one of the interviews was, what happened to Dr. McDougall?
Yeah, we all want to know. That's
That he did the webinar. It's an hour, and Peter Rogers explains what he thinks happened. He had a massive stroke when he was 18 years old.
I know that. Yeah.
And he said, and he has a graph, and he shows how blood clots form when you stroke and how that can impact and have residual effects for the rest of your life. And he says that if Dr. McDougall hadn't been following his own diet, he would have died a lot sooner.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
But he explains in detail what he thinks happened. It's pretty impressive.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you both spoke at the same time.
Oh, I said I'll have to check that out. I'm going to put a link.
Peter Rogers. Well, we've had him. If you've seen him, our videos that he did, How to Save Your Brain is the most recent one.
He's very good.
The one before that is prostate and breast cancer. Talked about that. And he's got on YouTube, he's got so many great videos.
He does.
Short,
great.
and some short, some long.
Yeah.
And so
do you know the last time you talked to Dr. McDougall? Was it much before he died, or?
Yeah. I still considered him my primary care provider. If I had any questions, I'd go to him and he'd always answer, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And so part of what happened was I had a bad fall. I was going up some steps to see my dermatologist, and walked up to the second to the last step when the woman walked by on the second floor, and she said, "Oh, they finally fixed the elevators." And I said, I always take the stairs anyway. And I went to grab for the rail for that final step, and the rail ended before that. So there was no rail. So I was grabbing air and fell backwards
no.
down 10 steps with metal grid, non-slip
Oh,
steps.
Oh,
And so, long story short, I broke my back. And
mm,
well, yeah, so that's been, and because I was having so much trouble, I couldn't walk, I couldn't sleep. I would still
mm.
eat, of course, everything was going well there, but I kept wanting, I gotta heal this fracture. It was the L4, which doctors had said that's one of the worst fractures you can have. It takes the longest to heal. So I've been put in this brace, the TLSO brace, which is
No,
all the
I
metal
remember
that
this, yeah.
people have seen. Yeah, and it's miserable. It's uncomfortable, and so it's been slow. And in the meantime, I was talking back and forth to Dr. McDougall, not talking,
Yeah.
mostly email. And he said, "You've got to get back on your feet." And I said, "I know, I'm trying." And it was like 3 or 4 days before I've saved those emails.
Yeah, I
And
bet. Yeah.
yeah, I was, oh, just devastated. It's hard to
Yeah.
believe that.
We all were. We all were very devastated. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Incredible.
How is your injury now? Is it healed, or are you still dealing with
Yes,
things from it?
still, yeah, using a walker and a wheelchair.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yeah,
I
and
wish you lived closer. I'm like the back pain expert. That's what I do at my office all day, every day is fix people's backs.
Yeah, she's
I've
physical
never seen a
therapist.
back I can't fix. Yeah, I'm a physical therapist, so that's my thing, back pain.
well, in the acknowledgments in this book, I have a section to the physical therapists that have helped me from the very beginning, that first the time I was hit by the truck, up until last week. The physical therapy they put me through, they figured out how I can do planks and push-ups.
Yeah, they do great work. Yeah,
Yeah, physical therapists are great.
yeah,
But there's a limit to what I can do because when it was a compression fracture, which
Mhm.
compressed both the sensory and the motor nerves. The sensory cause all the pain, and the motor nerves are weak. And so I can
Oh,
only
God.
walk a few feet at a time with the walker, and then I have to sit and use the wheelchair. So I have to have caregivers here
Mhm.
from 7 to 11 in the morning, and the second shift from 3 to 7. So from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., I am flat on my back. I can't, totally dependent. So my life, I went from the good life. I mean, my life was fantastic until the fall. And now I have a good life. I'm having to make the most of what I do have. Gratitude, thinking of gratitude, it just turns my thinking around.
yeah,
I have to be so thankful that I can do what I do, which
Mm.
is, even though I'm sitting at my desk for so many hours, except when I get up and try to do some squats, I'm still getting a lot of emails and
mhm,
answers questions, and try to promote the book, because the information, you got to read it. You can hear it once, but if it isn't reinforced, and that's why I love watching these different videos, different people.
definitely.
Michael Clapper has been very active, thank goodness. And who are the others? I'll watch on YouTube. Peter Rogers posts almost every day. Some of them are
He
short.
does. Yeah,
Yeah, what
Well, I'll
caused?
try to send you. I'll try to send you a video on how I think I can fix where your back might get better. I'll send you a video of how to do it. Just if you just
Okay,
follow it a little bit, it might help. Okay.
okay. There are two things that I thought of, that they thought of: the kyphosis, where they inject bone paste into the vertebrae and
Yeah.
it opens it up to where it normal size. But he said, no, not in your case, because if we put a needle in, injected, it would go right through into the CSF. The
Not good. Yeah.
yeah. So he said, no, that won't work.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is the spine surgeon, trauma surgeon said, yeah, we could try the pins and rods, but he said, with you have osteoporosis, and he said it'd be like building a sandcastle on the beach. On low tide, you'd be okay, but high tide, you'd be worse off than you are now. So he
Yeah.
said, I do not advise surgery. So
No, I'll send you a video of what I do to help people fix their backs, and all. It's all non-invasive. It's just physical therapy techniques.
good, because I
Okay.
love physical therapy. I love my physical therapists. They are so
Good, good.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, mine is a special technique that I learned after. See, I was in a serious a water ski accident. And I worked with a physical therapist who used to be an engineer. So he had like a different way of doing things. So he showed me this real, some specialized techniques that are very different than the ones I learned in school, but they're very, very
Oh,
effective. So that's
I'm
really,
open,
really effective. Yeah.
so open to that.
Yeah. Maybe if I talk to your physical therapist, I could try to talk them through the process and we could get it done. Because I hate to see you in pain like this. That's my specialty, and it would be wonderful to see you up and running around again.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be great. Yeah.
Mhm.
So um, I gave Richard my phone number.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just
It-
send it over.
Yeah, send
I'll
it
send
over.
him a video and he can send it right to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
getting close to an hour, but I did want to remind our audience that we're going to post all the links to your books, and yeah, I think you're such an amazing person. I really
Well, the information I've learned firsthand, I don't want everybody else to learn it firsthand. You can learn from what happens to the body when you do this and do that.
exactly
The
exactly.
good and the
Amazing.
bad.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
living proof, and
No, you're
Yeah.
amazing. You're such an inspiration. I can't tell you how amazing it is to just sit here and talk to you. You're just an amazing
Well,
person.
thank
definitely.
you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that too, because I want to get the word out to as many people as
Mhm.
possible.
Oh, definitely. Here's
I
your
saw you one time on a video of I can't remember which video it was or where it was, but people were saying, "Oh, isn't it so difficult to eat this way?" And you were saying, "Well, it's not difficult. You just peel and eat some bananas. There you are. No mess in the kitchen or anything."
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah, yeah. So,
It's so
yeah,
true.
Yeah.
yeah. I may, in the beginning, thought that I don't know what to do, and so probably ate a few things that I shouldn't have. But with Mary, that they did a cooking class, and so I did that, and that helped a lot. But I keep it simple. Well, I
Yeah.
shouldn't say simple. A lot of ingredients. Another book that I've really appreciated is Fiber Fueled by Will
Yes. That's a
Volsowitz.
great
Oh yeah,
book.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've been trying to get him as a speaker, and he's been
We
so
have
busy.
two,
Got
actually.
another book out, and yeah,
Yeah.
and then Baxter Montgomery. That was
Oh.
another shocker.
Yes.
Oh my
We're
goodness.
still trying to
I
figure
still
it
don't
out.
have a clear idea of what happened to
No,
him.
and he had interviewed me last year.
Mm.
Yeah, interviewed me, and
Wow.
I thought turnabout's fair play. So I texted his main assistant and said, I want to get him a Zoom speaker, if not coming to Hawaii. And she said, well, he's been so busy lately. And I said, how about for June? He said, no, no way. How about July? And she said, well, I'll check. He said, no, later in the year, maybe. So I had him penciled in for September. So when I
Oh.
saw that this morning, how can this be?
I
My
know.
gosh.
I know.
And then we've lost Hans Deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, that was a shock.
That was a
Yeah.
stroke, wasn't it? Didn't he have a stroke?
I never did know what it
I
was.
think he had a stroke. Yeah, if they're, it's like these things, they hit you and you just keep looking for what could possibly have happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And with Dr. McDougall, Peter Rogers is the only one that's come up with a reasonable reason why it
Yeah.
happened to him.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
someone else we just lost.
Well, Jeff Nelson said that Baxter Montgomery passed from cancer.
Oh,
That's what Jeff Nelson said. So I don't know where he got the information from, but he said that that's what happened.
Yeah, and he was so young too, 58.
61 wasn't, I think it was he 61 or 50. Did you think
I
he was
read
58?
I read
I think there
58.
are a couple of
Jeff
different.
Nelson is Peter Rogers is 61. I know
Okay.
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
Well,
Well, we really enjoyed this, and
well,
I
thank you.
think you're so inspirational.
You
Well,
are.
I've learned a lot.
I'm sure
I'll
you
tell
have.
you.
Yeah.
So when was your last run?
Oh, just before the fall.
Okay. And when was
Yeah.
the fall?
A year ago yesterday, the
Okay.
21st.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's slow. Plus, I had setbacks in that the first compression, and I was in rehab and doing really well, and thought, oh, I can walk. I passed the test. No more physical therapy. You're able to take care of yourself. So they sent me home, and then all of a sudden things got really, really bad again. So I called the doctor. They did another MRI, and he showed me the pictures. This was it before, and you had more compression. The osteoporosis compressed it again. So that was another setback, and it was like starting to heal all over again from the beginning. So
Yeah.
it's been a real ordeal, and I'm not out of it yet. But as I said, I have a good life. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
enjoying what I'm doing. I'm grateful for these caregivers. They are so helpful. And by the way, a lot of them are diabetic or pre-diabetic and have hypertension. And
Yeah.
Wow.
a little overweight. I don't want
Yeah.
to tell them that, but they
I
know
know.
it.
I know.
And so by fixing all my meals, they are learning how to eat properly.
I
No
love
meat,
that. You're
no
helping people
eggs, no
indirectly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I love
But they
that.
always, well, fish is okay. No,
No.
it's not. No, not at all.
Yeah.
The same amount of cholesterol. It's mostly fat, and you don't need excess protein, especially animal protein.
Exactly.
Brenda Davis
Exactly.
is another one of my heroes.
Yes.
We had her to speak out here in Hawaii. And while she was here, I told her I was so sorry I was not going to be able to attend. And I told her about the accident. She said, "Can I come visit you?" And I thought, I don't want to have her see me like this. And then I thought, well, okay, uh, I have to fess up. I'm in pretty bad shape. So she came. She said, "Oh, let's go out to lunch." And I said, "No, there's no way. I'm wheelchair bound." And she said, "Well, I'll just come and see you. And besides, my mother's here and she wants to meet you too." I was then 89. I just had my 90th birthday. And she, being almost the same age, was really interested in what I had been telling her, and changed her diet quite a bit. So both of them came to visit. And right in this very room, you see a sofa behind me. And the two of them sat there and we had a wonderful conversation.
Nice. Nice.
Really exciting. So, okay, this
Okay.
is great.
Well, we
I-
really appreciate it, and I'll let you know when it's posted. It should be within a few days, and
Okay,
yeah, we'll include all the links. If you want to send me some links too as well,
okay,
we do include them.
great. I'm not very computer techie oriented, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
Well,
that's
Richard's
okay.
very, very computer technique, so he's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll find the links.
okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, gonna sign off now.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
All
talk to
right.
you later.
Thanks, Ruth. Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate both of you too. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.